The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Good morning, Jamie. How are you this morning? Of course. Oh my gosh. Can't read Sweetie's letters without drinking coffee. Look at this.
This is best cat mom ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a little gray cat to put on there.
You found the little gray cat. I don't know where you find all these little cats to hook onto your mugs.
This was a gift.
Mm-hmm.
As many coffee mugs are, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's just, and so I hope all of our listeners have their coffee.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we've got a fun day today.
Yes.
It's the end of fall. Well, we're heading towards the end of fall, I would say, of 1944. We're firmly out of the summer of 1944 at this point. Sweetie's been in Kansas. Sweetie's been very alone in Kansas other than Lew. She's relying on letters at this point to find out what's going on. And we're going to dive back into that world. We're at the end of September. Now, we have to remind all of our listeners, if they haven't listened to the previous letters, Sweetie didn't think she'd be in Kansas this long. Mm-hmm. She thought this was like 2 weeks. He's going to get shipped out, and I'm going to go with my husband and spend as much time as I can with him before he's shipped out to sea, because Lew's in the Navy. That's not happening. Mm-mm. Her first letter from Hutchinson, Kansas was written, and this was after she arrived there, on July 23rd. The first letter today is September 29th. So she's been in Kansas for 2 months at this point. So I just wanted to put that into everybody's frame of reference. But before we go into the first letter, a couple things. First of all, this episode is going to air like 4 days before Thanksgiving. So we really hope that all of our listeners have a good Thanksgiving. And then the other thing is, of course, please check out our website, www.lovesweetiepodcast.com. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. It's on YouTube. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, just click that little button. I know I haven't figured out, to our listeners, I've not figured out the technology of how people are like, press this button, and then you can press the button on the screen and all that fun stuff. But please click the button on YouTube to like and subscribe. It's really, really, really helpful for us. If you're listening on our audio channels like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, please leave a review, even if it's just the ratings with the stars. We appreciate all the feedback. But other than that, Jamie, I think we're going to dive now and fully into the fall of September here with Sweetie in Kansas. Hutchinson, Kansas, September 29th, 1944. Dear Jeanne, we had a very short letter from Mrs. Corey, and in it she said Betty had returned home, just as I thought she probably would. She heard from the Major, for a while at least. She may be yet, but he's in North Carolina, and she's in California, so he's reasonably safe. Tisk tisk. She did not write any particulars, but knowing the family as you do, surely you can just imagine the fireworks.
Oh, Betty. Oh, Betty.
Yeah.
So in our last episode, we learned that Betty had run away from home.
Right.
Because the Coreys are out in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. So
she's out there, and she is an adult. She is considered an adult at this point, and so she ran away from home. Mm-hmm. But and Miss Corey told Sweetie, and I'm really glad that she followed up with a letter when Betty returned.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know what? The grass isn't always greener. It's probably really difficult on your own in a new state during a war with rations going on to figure out how to just get by at this time. So I was actually really glad to read, okay, it's like Betty went home. That's a good thing. But I also love the humor here that she's writing in the middle, saying that the Major, that he's the one that's safe. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah. Because Betty, we know, is so infatuated with the Major, of course. So it's like, okay, she wants to get to him, and he's safely in North Carolina. I think
literally on the other side of the country.
Yeah, he's on the other coast. So that's how that is at the moment. Kay is going to take Suzanne and fly back to Texas as soon as she can get plane reservations. Maybe that will ease the strain on Barry's ego. I didn't realize until about noon that today is Friday and my wash day. Darn it. By then it was too late to start in, so I guess I'll have to do it in the morning. Washing and ironing won't be very much of a job now since white uniforms have all been washed and put away. I don't iron sheets, dish towels, bath towels, and so I really don't have much to do. But I've got to do Saturday cleaning tomorrow too, so I'll be fairly busy. I wrote to Bernadine and have already had an answer from her in which she invited us down for a weekend. I'll answer her letter today and then send her letter with this one. I got quite a kick out of her little "ha" sprinkled literally throughout. I don't know what to tell her about coming down. Lew's day off every 5 days varies so that we might have trouble making arrangements. I'll write and tell you what we decide. We're only about 40 or 50 miles away. So, you feel a little neutral towards Bill, or rather not seeing Bill. Maybe that is an indication. Do you think?
So this is a letter to Jeanne, and we know Jeanne has been having these feelings for her man Bill, but she's also been having some apprehension.
Yeah.
She hasn't really made a decision about that.
Right.
So this is something that she's been going back and forth about. And when I read the letter, I mean, and Sweetie's kind of going through, and you can tell she's answering a letter. Yeah. Kind of like in the way that she's
catching
writing.
Up. Yeah.
I know, because I just love the reference to Kay and Suzanne. I'm like, who are these people? I wonder.
Yep.
But here, when I was reading this, I was like, that's it.
There it is.
Bill
Yeah.
gone. This decision has been made. I mean, he might be around for a little bit longer. He might be, but I have a feeling that that's not gonna happen.
Right. I get the sense that, I think it was mostly through all of August, there was this undecidedness, right? I think we heard that Jeanne was supposed to be going to her parents, and she was talking in the previous episode about, no one can decide this for you, not dad, not mom, you can't keep sort of shopping around for answers about what to do here. You have to make the decision. So now we've heard Jeanne saying that she's on the neutral place. Now, Bill might still appear in the storyline for a while because there's a close relationship there, but it just doesn't seem like this is going to be the one.
This felt like a turning point to me.
Yeah.
This felt like a turning point.
Yeah. It has been ever so long since we've had a letter from Bob. True, I haven't done any too good a job of writing, but I did write last. I wish I could have giggled with you and Mom over the little thangs and the valentines. The only way I could see them would be to go alone to Lacona. Lew's already had 10 days leave, and so he has no time until 1945. He'd let me come all right, but I can't think it would be fun to go without him, and it would be just my luck to get up there, and then get word that he'd gotten orders. So I keep thinking, well, I'll wait. I hate like the dickens to spend evenings alone, but I'd really be lonesome if he was really gone. And I'm going to pause here, too, to talk about the leave status. So imagine you're at work today and you have PTO, and you've scheduled it out, you've used your days up. That's it for the year. So at this point, there's no stretch of time in 1944 that in the Navy, Lew has continuously off where they can make a trip. We remember right before Hutchinson, Kansas, before they both headed out, they both went to Lacona. So that had to at least have been a few days off there. So it being now the end of September, there's at least 3 months left on this year. And it's just going to be whenever his schedule's free that he has time off. I haven't gotten anything for the boys yet either, and I haven't the faintest notion what to get. Lew tells me I must get it done, and I say I'm going to. But I'm so stumped, I don't know what to get. Is it fair to tell what Bill asks about you? That ain't being two-faced, is it? He said he'd like to buy you a gift, but he couldn't get you to say what you'd like, so he asked me for some suggestions. I said I didn't know what to suggest, though I knew you did like something that is distinctive. Not the run-of-the-mill stuff. Satisfied? I should make you cut me in. Love, Lew, and Sweetie. Why doesn't Margaret Elizabeth write us? I wrote her a nice letter, and they sent M.A. some pencils and letters.
Well, I'd like to say, Sweetie, she said, is it two-faced to tell you what Bill writes about? No, it's not. Not now. It's your sister. You can tell her. Yeah. So I hope he does.
Yeah, I'm suspecting she did, though it's not clear what communication that was. And then, of course, Bill's writing now. He's built up this relationship with Lew and Sweetie. So he's trying to figure out Christmas present shopping because she's also talking about the boys, what to get the boys. And Christmas isn't mentioned.
The boys, it's funny because the boys is Frank. The boys are Frank and Bob, and they're older. So when she refers to the boys, but it's the boys of the family.
Right, her brothers.
The brothers.
Yeah. And they have to shop early, too.
Exactly. I was just...
Yeah.
They have to get stuff out so they can send it because they're sending the stuff overseas. And of course, they can't send anything big.
Right.
It has to be something small. So Lou's like, you do that. Sweetie's like, must be nice to have a wife. But it is brother and sister, or her brothers. But yeah, so they're doing some Christmas shopping. She's got a lot of stuff in this letter, but you can tell she's also kind of waiting. She's waiting for Lou's orders to come in.
Yeah. Now, she's writing this at the end of September, so she's doing Christmas shopping a little early, but we know there's that time delay they're anticipating with regards to sending stuff to the brothers because they're in the war. But since this is airing 4 days before Thanksgiving, Jamie, so that puts this episode, actually, because this episode is airing on November 24th, that's literally a month to Christmas. I've got some of the stuff figured out for Christmas this year, for what to send to people, for what to give to people. But I do think there's going to be a bit of a last minute rush this year. I don't know. How are you doing this year with the holiday shopping? Do you usually wait till the last minute? Or are you more of like planning throughout my mom would like plan throughout the year. She'd just find things. It could be
whenever they find things. Like sometimes I'll find things, but mostly I actually got started last month. Okay. Because we found a good deal on something, and so I was like, oh, we should get that for Christmas. Yeah. So I got started last month, but actually my husband does most of the Christmas shopping. But not to the last minute, I would assume. No, he'll go out and he'll just do it, take care of all of it. So I don't really ever have to do it. And, we'll keep lists and stuff. Yeah. But I'm not there. I'm not there yet. But I find it funny because Sweetie's talking about this during the letters because of when this airs to our audience here. I wonder how many people are already in that mode, right? At the stores, shopping, or if it's going to be the mad rush at the last moment. So good luck to everybody who are fighting crowds at the stores. And I hope everybody finds what they're looking for. But at any rate, we have another letter to go into here. And now we're going into October of 1944. Hutchinson, Kansas, October 6th, 1944. Dear Jeanne, Dad had a nice letter from Sister. She sent some pictures and some letters with a request that they be sent to you. So, here they are. What have you been doing lately? I presume you've been busy, or dating, or making an Afghan, but not writing. Well, we've done little too. Mom wrote of her trip to Des Moines, and of her stay at Sister's. She said Bill made her a little uncomfortable, and she was quite glad to see Saturday come. I doubt if Bill ever gets over his Auntie Demery obsession. Isn't it too bad we can't find out what makes him tick? Well, we know from in previous episodes, there has been a little bit of tension between Sweetie and Sister. Yeah. Just a little bit, a hair. Because she said that she did write to her and she didn't apologize. Right. Yeah. She didn't apologize for the note that everybody could see on the postcard. All of the other renters when they had just the one room. Yeah, she was a little upset at that. But this is the first time we hear Bill specifically called out. Ja Bill. Of course, this is not Jean's Bill. This is Ja Bill, right? Bill Bolton, Sister's husband. What is this Auntie Demery obsession? This is the first time we're really hearing like, I don't know what that is. But yeah, there's still a bit of humor here. But definitely something was like Laura just wanted to get home. So. I did a 2 weeks wash yesterday. Lordy, lordy, just like the ones you and I used to hang up when we got home from school at noon. I've tried both the white and brown white capsules. I don't often have cramps very bad, but I don't believe the brown ones did any good, and the white ones are just about the same as aspirin. I don't believe they made the curse any worse, though, so I guess that counts for something. Lew took my fountain pen out to the base the other day. I started this letter last night with a pencil. Since then, he's brought the pen home, but he's using it to write to his mother, so I'll have to finish with pencil if I'm to get this done. And I just wanted to note something here as a historian.
She's very intent on trying to make sure that all of her letters are written with pen. Specifically with fountain pen, they're very defensive of their pens these days, and they're good pens. So the fact that one wandered off to the base with Lew, I don't think she was happy about that. But it's very, very rare that we see a lot of big historical letters written in pencil. And the smudging of pencil, there's an issue sometimes with keeping the quality of the letters. So when this one came up, I was like, ooh, I need to transcribe this now and get this aside from everything else and put in a sheet protector very quickly. There's a nervousness when we're handling something that's written 80 years ago, let alone anything older than that that's in pencil. So she's concerned at the time she's writing it. She doesn't like not using a pen. That's a good Christmas present idea, by the way, for anybody in the families that like to write, is a really good and nice like fountain pen or something like that. There's a lot that can be done. But yeah, as a historian, this is something interesting to note, because you'd think, just there's a letter in pencil. It's frowned upon to be writing letters in pencil because of this reason. So she's upset enough that she's literally writing about it. Don't you think KM looks like Bob? And don't you think she's cute? She's grown up so fast, and she's certainly changed. What did you get the boys for Christmas? We can't think of anything they need or want, so we're going uptown Monday morning and see what we can find for them. As it is, we'll just get in under the line. I wrote to Aunt Rosanna and Aunt Mary about the same time I wrote you, and have already heard from Aunt Mary. She says they won't be out to visit this year, as far as she knows. They can't drive, and if Uncle Cyril wants to go by train, he'll have to go alone. She sounded quite definite about that. Well, if I'm to add the pictures and letter, this will be pretty full, so I'll stop now. Write to us. Love, Lew, and Sweetie.
Yeah. So she's still trying to figure out what to do for the boys for Christmas.
Still trying to figure out. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what to get for certain people. I struggle sometimes until like right at the last moment, or I need inspiration to strike me. I think this is the reason to still go to the stores. It's still difficult, right, to just shop online. I mean, you can browse things online, but there's something about just walking in a store and looking at displays and just something just clicks, like, oh, that's what I should get. And it just sparks an idea, right?
And the time, and I remember shopping in the 90s, when we were younger.
Yeah.
And like Christmas time shopping, the malls were just packed full of people.
Yeah.
It was warm inside, it was cold outside, but you got in and there was like beautiful displays and everything. It was an experience. Like I remember taking trips to, and I lived in the middle of a rural Ohio, so we didn't have like cute places to go shopping. So we would take trips to go shopping.
Yeah.
And it would be like an event.
Right. Yeah.
Now you can sit and you're on your it's kind of taken away the magic of the season.
A bit of it. And it's also, you see things you might not ever consider because you're visually seeing it at a place. Like now, we know that there's algorithms that they send you things that the system thinks you'd like. I'm a sucker for Facebook ads. I don't mind my Facebook ads. They're usually related to coffee, chocolate, or delightful things. And then I see these delightful things and I'm like, I'm good. You can keep sending me this. This is fine. These are very nice.
Facebook is kind of on point. I'm not saying it's a good thing.
Yeah, their algorithms. Yeah, but I'm okay with it. If you're just going to send me let me know new things and developments about the coffee industries of the world and all these new things that are coming out with relation to delicious things. Once that stops happening, then I'll be annoyed. But at the moment, I'm not. But still, it's the same thing with movies. So I used to work at Blockbuster. And one of the amazing things about working there is that when people go through and they go around, for people that remember Blockbuster, you'd go around the wall of the store and you get to the movie you're getting, but you're passing by everything else. And there's always that moment. It's like, oh, I didn't know that was out, or I didn't know they made a movie about that thing. And if you're not specifically looking for it, or if the algorithms today wouldn't pick up that you might have an interest in that, you'll just miss it. So there is something about sort of shopping just in person, but it sounds like Sweetie's still struggling with, even despite shopping. I don't know what to get the guy.
Well, she's got a deadline.
Yeah.
So they need to get going on it. So maybe we'll find some. I'm hoping that she finds
Yeah. All right.
But we are on to our third letter. A third letter today.
Yep. Mid-October.
Hutchinson, Kansas, October 17th, 1944. Dear Jeanne, we were glad to get your letter, and I know it should have been answered sooner, but I caught quite a severe cold and got sick enough that I was quite happy to stay in bed, and I was certainly in no letter-writing mood. I don't know how I caught it, but it was as bad a cold as I've had since I was a senior in high school. You know how my stopped-up nose can get, so you can imagine how I felt. I took the sulfathiazole that Daddy sent us, but I didn't start it early enough to keep it from progressing as Lew did. I'm about all right now, and I feel worlds better, thank goodness. I had a sinus headache with it, but even that is pretty well gone.
Yeah, so she's going to struggle with this throughout her life, is when she gets really sick and she gets these sinus headaches. It really did sort of bring her down. And her first instinct, it's not my first instinct, but her first instinct, especially with her father being the doctor that he is to run straight to the medicine. Mm-hmm. And there's just a lot of medicines. So we get this one here, and maybe someone will correct me on my pronunciation, the sulfathiazole, but that's that sulfa drug again. So we start hearing about sulfa. And of course, I've been telling our listeners, don't take medical advice from the 1940s as medical advice today, let alone things are probably not even available. But even if they were, 80 years of medicine and science changes a lot of things. But Chester's also, he has the ability to compound his own medicines. And Jamie had recently visited, and we were talking with my father, and we went upstairs into his, basically, I almost call it like a library, like a den. And up there, he handed you a small item. Do you remember this, Jamie?
He handed me a couple of small items. But the thing that was the most interesting, I thought, was the mortar and pestle.
Yeah. And that was Chester's.
And it was Chester.
That was Chester's mortar and pestle. Now, I'm not saying that he was making sulfathiazole or whatever, or compounding something to create it with that mortar and pestle. But Chester had the ability to do that. And then my father also told some fun stories about childhood. And Chester maybe teaching the grandkids or attempting to teach the grandkids to combine things they probably should not even be handling.
Yeah, that was really fun. It was very fun to hear those stories about Chester and to actually hold something that he had once used. And that was actually, you never knew that, right? That you had known that was his mortar and pestle.
It had always been sitting there. And if my father had told me it just hadn't really clicked that was his. So I'm going to get a picture of that mortar and pestle up on the website so everybody can see it and know that is that survived the test of time. It made its way from Iowa to Pennsylvania and is now sitting safely. But it's the little things like that where we hear these stories about Chester sending medicine. My mind now goes back to that little mortar and pestle that has made its way through. But yeah, at some point we're going to do a bonus episode, probably as we get closer into the 50s. It's not going to be for a while, about sulfa. Because this is just, everybody who's listening, you're going to keep hearing things related to a drug related to sulfa. It really was like the miracle drug of the time. So yeah, if you keep hearing something with sulfa in the name, major for that time period. But don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home.
No.
We had a nice letter from M.E., and she told us about your sending boxes to the boys. We did too, bought little things that we thought they could use, but we had a hard time trying to think what to get. I hope they'll be able to use the stuff, for we did try and spend an amazing amount of money for the small things we got. We had a short letter from Frank, the first we'd had in a long time, but it was short and not very newsy, so I won't send it on. We haven't heard from Bob since we've been here, though I've written 2 or 3 times. Lew is still on the 5 to midnight shift, but it isn't so bad since I'm not working. He has been studying quite a lot and this morning appeared before the board to be interviewed in hopes he'll get his second-class rate. We'll let you know as soon as we hear about it. If the increase in rate means he'll be shipped out, I don't want him to make it at all. But I guess his pride demanded at least a try. How nice that you have your Afghan done. I'd surely like to see it. But why did you hurry so and work so hard to get it done so quick? Since the cold, I've been a little fed up with everything. I couldn't settle down to write letters, tat, embroidery, or anything. And now that I'm okay, I've got lots of work to do, washing, cleaning, etc. The leaves are falling so fast now, I think of campus day at Parsons when the entire student body turned out to rake and clean up the campus.
Can we just pause here for a moment? I think this is a great idea.
Yeah.
Put the students to work, clean up the campus, and rake the leaves. It'd be done in a day, and it's good hard work.
And well, I mean, once all the leaves fall,
mm-hmm.
There's no point in doing it until all the leaves fall.
Right, yeah.
And it wasn't a huge college.
Mm-hmm.
It was small, so it was easily doable.
Yeah, but I think this would be a nice thing. I know I'm near Delaware Valley University, which is very agricultural based, and there's a lot of pride taken on the campus, and I know that the students there have a big part in maintaining a lot of things on that campus, and it's beautiful. But I think this would just be like a nice bonding experience. Like, you could take a day off from classes, you could get outside, help out everybody, bring down the expenses of the school, do this voluntarily. Voluntarism's important. And then everything's ready to go for the next season. So something,
if the students are doing this, they're taking pride in their work.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a moment. It's time for them to come together to do something. And also, if you have the entire campus coming out, you're going to make quick work.
Yeah. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, how much do you want to bet? There were some leaf piles that probably didn't remain in piles.
So. Oh, I'm sure the guys were throwing leaves at each other.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And two, when you get out there and you get everybody out, it's a chance. I went to a very large college. I know a lot of people would go to very large colleges. It's a chance to get to meet people you might not have met.
Right. Yeah.
And see people that you might not have ever had a chance to see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like this idea. For anybody that's an educator that's looking for things to do, maybe it's time for a campus day and have the students put in a little elbow grease and rake up the leaves.
I've a touch of spring fever or something, and I guess it will only be appeased by a long walk come Lew's next day off on Friday. I'm looking forward to that. I think we might go out to the station to a dance that Friday night. We'll have to see about that. Why hasn't Bill Gruning written? Our fan mail has certainly dropped off, and we miss your letters. Finally, I've met 3 girls in the neighborhood. Maybe now the time will not drag so while Lew is gone. Love, Lew, and Sweetie.
I told you that was done. Mm-hmm. I said.
Yep. Now it's a little quieter.
I feel it. So I wonder what happened there on that side. But so, and it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad to think about that, them not working out, because she has been with him for a little while and stuff. But them's the breaks, that's how things go.
Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, Sweetie's finally being a little social. We can see it took a while. She's basically just sitting at home for 2 months. And I think finally she's like, well, I guess we could go to a dance. Well, I've started to make friends with some of the wives. I get it, though. She was in Ottumwa for 2 years. She made a very close relationship with the Corey family. Mm-hmm. She had Lucille there, right? Her roommate from college. Mm-hmm. She still doesn't know how long she's going to be in Hutchinson. And I think there's some sort of hesitancy to make a close bond with people only to be separated very soon after. So she's a little tentative. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she's been here for over 2 months now. It's now October. They arrived in mid-July. It's going into the holidays. Also the holidays, not going around with the ladies, maybe doing a little shopping. He's working overnight. He's probably sleeping a lot during the day. She said, I think that she's 5 blocks from the downtown in one of the letters when they moved to the apartment. So she's right there. Okay, you can get out a little bit. You don't have to make really super close bonds with people in Kansas. But you're even saying you're running out of embroidery work. So also the Afghan is interesting. Jeanne was knitting an Afghan. That was pretty fast. So how much time was she spending with Bill versus knitting? Just a question.
No, Bill, I can't see you tonight. I have to knit this Afghan. It's just it's kind of a thing,
Seems a little fast. Afghans are a huge piece of work for knitting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right. It might have been a way to kind of get oh no, I'm busy. I have other things I'm working on this Afghan.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, looking for other people to make decisions for me. Thinking. However, I remember Aunt Jeanne, and I do really remember her as an extremely strong-willed woman. So the fact that she's taking so much time to go to other people about what they think, right from the get-go, I think we both sensed that was, it shouldn't require so much input from other people to make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we have one more letter for today's episode. And this is actually a letter written on the same day as the one we just listened to. But we have one of these other interesting matters where we get to see a tonal shift because it's not to Jeanne. It's to Sister.
Hutchinson, Kansas, October 17th, 1944. Dear Sister and Bill, that was a nice letter, and we enjoyed it a lot. I'd have answered it sooner, but a bad cold put me in a do-nothing-at-all mood. And I've done just that for almost a week. I'm okay now, and if the weather is nice in the morning, I'm going to do our 2 weeks wash. I hear the wind blowing kinda hard, though, so it may have to be put off again. We sent boxes off to the boys, too. We couldn't decide what to send, so we gathered up all kinds of little odds and ends. I hope they'll be able to use most of the stuff, but as you said, some of the stuff did give winkers. However, they should know that we tried, that selections are limited, and that prices are high. It was a job, but we should have credit for trying. Lew is still on the 3 to midnight shift, though it doesn't seem as bad as it used to. I still get a lonesome feeling that stays with me most of the evening, a combination of wanting to do something and wanting to visit home. The fall weather is partly to blame, I think. The days are typical of Iowa's Indian summer, enhanced by the falling leaves brightly colored. It brings back memories of the Parsons days, when all classes were dismissed while we blistered our hands raking leaves, etc., and then ended campus day with the big picnic supper. I guess the only cure for such nostalgia is a good long walk that, with luck, we'll take on Lew's next day off. There's a big dance at the rec hall at the base the same night, and if our legs aren't all walked off, we may even go to that. I've finally met some of the neighborhood's young wives, and now maybe the time won't seem so long. I'm not sure that I'd like to get very chummy with any of them, but when I'm alone so much, they're kind of a welcome diversion. We had a short letter from Frank, the first in ages, and so far we haven't heard from Bob since we've been in Kansas, though I've written him 2 or 3 times. Lew appeared before the reviewing board this morning for an interview, presumably the last stage before making a higher rate. We don't know yet what the verdict is. That will be a while before he knows. But I keep fearing that an increase in rank will push him out to sea just that much sooner. We've decided the smartest idea is to be the forgotten man of the Navy. The less attention called to himself, the better.
Interesting. I love this phrase, and that's why this episode is called what it is, the forgotten man of the Navy. He really does seem kind of forgotten. He's been stationed out in the Midwest for, at this point, it would seem about 2 years, which is really interesting. He's very skilled. He's going for a higher rate, but they also are like, I don't know if we want to do this. And we have to remember the time period that we're in. D-Day has already happened at this point. They know the big fight's going to be with Japan, and I was talking about this in an earlier episode, in which, in hindsight for us, we know that Oppenheimer and the project is being worked on, but they have no idea, so the only thing they think is land invasion of Japan. And that's going to be a really big fight if that happens. So Sweetie's thinking, and Lew's thinking at this point, we're just going to lay low in Kansas, and this thing might be over really soon. They don't know yet what's going to happen in the story here. So the forgotten man of the Navy, not that he's not trying to serve. He's been serving for years. He's clearly going for the rank he should be going for. He's taking up his responsibility here. But if somehow the war kind of passes him by and he just remains in Hutchinson, that would be just fine to Sweetie at this point. And remember, she's already got all the men in her life. There's 3 men in her life. Lew and her 2 brothers. 2 of them are already at the front. So it's also that perspective going on there.
Well, we've said that when they came here, she was under the assumption it wouldn't be that long.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I can imagine that's kind of torturous
Mm-hmm.
to have that uncertainty.
Yeah.
Especially because we know how much, she loves Lew and she doesn't want him to go.
Yep.
And I think we do have to kind of, and it's nice to have her perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to bet that Lew wants to go, but he doesn't want to leave. Like, he wants to serve.
Right.
Because he wants to do what he joined the Navy. He didn't join the Navy to be in Kansas.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He joined the Navy to sail on the seas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can imagine that he's also probably torn, not wanting to leave his wife, who obviously, doesn't want him to go, doesn't want him to get hurt, doesn't want to lose him, which is a very real possibility in this time.
Mm-hmm.
But he needs to do what is good for him. And going for this position and, going before the review board is, and she said it in the other letter, which is, it's very funny to compare the two letters and to see the difference.
There's a difference in tone here about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but he's got to do this because he knows he's that good.
Right.
He knows he strives to, like, I know that he probably wanted to go. Yeah. And I can imagine how difficult that would be. And then also just kind of sitting there waiting, and he's not making the decision, it's being made for him about leaving. So having that uncertainty, I can imagine weighs really heavy.
Yeah. No sense of control, but it's the comparison to the previous letter. And it's actually kind of difficult to spot at times. She said in the previous letter to Jeanne, his pride. He needed to at least try. And now all of a sudden she's saying to sister, oh, it's okay if we're just, like, discreet and kind of, just cruising along with what's going on. But to Jeanne, it was his pride. So I think you're right. I think he does want to do his full service, of course, here. How many friends, how many buddies of his at all these bases probably have left in the meantime that he's remained in the Midwest? Probably.
And can you imagine being on and, like, being called out and Lew, and you're like, this guy's here.
Yeah, this guy's still
going.
Here. Yeah, like everybody else is going. Yeah,
he must be a really good mechanic. That's all I can figure. I wonder, he's really good. They do not want him to go anywhere.
Yeah, I just wonder, is he, like, training the others so well? Is he in a certain position where he's so valuable doing what he's doing that the U.S. government is saying this guy can stay because the benefit towards more people going in? Because at this point, I have to imagine you're not just working on planes. He's an engine mechanic, right? So he's not, that's not like the planes being used for war are not in Kansas. They're trainers. So with them all being trainers, is he just, like, instructing others? Like, here's how you're going to stay alive up there. This is how you're going to fix things. Does he have an amazing ability to communicate how to fix things on the fly? This is a guy, I'm pretty sure he didn't graduate from high school. I'll have to check with my dad, but I'm pretty sure he didn't. But it's just that practical knowledge, and he has probably the ability to express it very, very well. And I'm just trying to think, like, what is the reason that this guy has remained in the Midwest for so long? And the only thing I can think of is that he's extremely useful in some sort of role that's more than just working on engines. Has to be. Because if that was the case, I think he'd be overseas working on engines for the planes that are being used in the war. So there's this big, big curious moment here. But he seems to be placating Sweetie. Like, oh yeah, I can just be forgotten. It's fine. Yeah. No, his pride. It was the letter to Jeanne. I think you're right. I think he does want to do the full service and get sent out at some point, and have that experience wherever that leads, just because it's the right thing to do. He went to war expecting to go to war. And I think this is wearing on them.
I hope you're all okay. The tonsillitis all gone and the cold's all licked. I think as long as I've the urge, I'd better hurry on to another letter. If this mood leaves me, there's no telling how long it would be before another one hits me. Write soon. Love, Lew, and Sweetie.
She's just so much more buttoned up and proper with her older sister than Jeanne.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I mean, Jeanne and her are, like, they're best friends.
Oh yeah.
So she has her to do that, and then she's got, and yes, hello, sister. I will write to you now. he's right, you know? And too, like, when she's writing these letters, she basically wrote the same letter twice.
Yeah.
I'm sure that gives her a chance to reflect on how she's feeling and what she's going through, and it, you know, she's able to process these things and stuff.
Yeah.
And examine them from all different perspectives.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a definite tone that she uses with each sister.
And I also find it interesting, you know, this isn't like a very newsy letter, but thank you to sister for sending it on to Jeanne. We know not every letter sister ever received is going to be sent by Jeanne. This isn't like the family compiler, though Jeanne kept a lot of stuff that was sent to other individuals and they wound up with her. But it's nice that sister did send it to Jeanne, so we do have these examples of the tonal shifts, because Jeanne's not the main recipient here. And also, Jeanne's now getting the full picture. Like, oh, she wrote to me that he's doing it because, you know, he should at least try, but she's writing to sister over here. I think we can just stay under the radar. So, and things like that. So Jeanne's getting that, which is really interesting that at that moment, Jeanne's getting like two sides of a story. Now, does Sweetie know that sister's sending the letter to Jeanne? We don't know. Is there a relationship there?
And Jeanne might have started reading it and been like, "Oh, I already know all this stuff."
Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean, she too, like, she could have. I would have read it. I would have read all of it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah. Well, anyway, that is the last letter for this episode. We're leaving it in mid-October.
4-letter episodes are fun.
Yeah, and she's settling in Kansas. So you're right. It has to be torturous. You don't know how long you're going to be there. But I do like that she made some friends. She's
starting to branch out. Like she doesn't want to establish herself there. Of course, she doesn't want to put down roots or anything.
Yeah.
So why would she be? Why would she try? And it's not. She talked to her landlady and remember her landlord's sister came and taught her how to tat, which thank goodness.
Little thing.
Right? So
yeah.
So she's working through it, and I think that when if there ever comes a definitive answer for what Lou's going to do, then she'll be able to move on. But for right now, I can understand this feeling of turmoil that she's going through.
For sure. All right, everybody. With that, that's the end of this episode, also named The Forgotten Man of the Navy. Interpret for yourselves between those two letters, what's really being meant there. It's a moment in history that many of us, thankfully, hopefully will never have to experience, but a lot of emotions there heading towards the end of 1944. Again, please check out our website, www.lovesweetiepodcast.com. I'm going to put the picture of the mortar and pestle up there, Chester's mortar and pestle, so you get to see that and know that that was his, and survived all these years. I think they're probably hard to destroy. They're pretty sturdy items, mortar and pestles, but still made its way from Iowa to Pennsylvania. So we do have that in the family collection. And then, if you can like, share, and subscribe, again, press that button. Maybe I can aim it. I don't know. Like if I do this and I can figure out how to put the button on the screen, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm really trying to work
these
this
things.
out.
I don't know how they do that either.
I don't know how they do it. They're amazing. So haven't figured it out yet. We'll figure it out. And then if you can leave the review on the other channels, we greatly appreciate it. Everybody, we hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. And see you next week. Bye.